Hello, everyone. I'm Anthony Chow. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here today with us. It truly is an honor to welcome you to Nurturing the Mind and Spirit Wellness Strategies for the LIS Community in Uncertain Times. As director of the School of Information at San Jose State, I'm proud that we're hosting this timely and deeply meaningful symposium. Typically, we begin in our practice session, but you probably overheard some of my comments about the stress that I'm currently under myself. Life, as we all know, is tough. It's unpredictable and constantly changing. And the truth is, much of it is outside of our control. In those moments of stress, grief, or exhaustion, it's easy to feel like no one sees us or cares. While that's not true, those feelings are real, and they remind us how vital it is to take care of ourselves. That's why events like this matter. That's why we're proud to host events like this, because wellness, mental, emotional, and spiritual is not something we stumble upon. It's something we must build bit by bit. And it's not one size fits all. Self-care must be individualized by you based on your needs, your preferences, and your truth. Balance isn't a destination, it's a lifelong pursuit, and the smallest things often make the biggest difference. That's why I encourage all of you to intentionally build into your life small moments that bring you happiness, things that are just for you. For me, it's my dogs. They're always happy to see me, and they don't lecture me about chores, and they bring me joy. No matter what kind of day I've had, no matter when last time they've seen me, it's always a celebration. I love going on walks with them and the family, especially when it's out in nature. I also love watching sports, going fishing, and actually oftentimes more these days watching other people fish since it is hard, listening to music, reading, and spending time with my family. Also, I love to drive with some music on through beautiful places that help me feel grounded again. These may seem like simple things, but they are the building blocks of my resilience. They remind me and us who are beyond our work that we are beyond our work, our roles, and our stress. Today, you'll hear from incredible LS professionals and advocates. Really delighted to say we have several students as well who will share their ideas for protecting your peace, creating inclusive cultures of care, and integrating wellness into the heart of our work, your work. We'll also spotlight efforts like REFORMA's Kindness Affinity Group, and explore ways we can institutionalize compassion and community in our profession. And our collaboration with Loida Garcia-Febo in particular is one of our primary commitments to this for all of us. As we begin, I invite you to take a deep breath, give yourself permission to be fully present, and commit to leaving here with at least one new idea to nurture your own mind and spirit. So again, thank you for being here. You matter. Your well-being matters. Welcome. And let me hand it over to Loida Garcia-Febo. Loida?
Thank you, Dr. Chow. And thank you, everyone joining us today. This is a very important day. It's a day where we have taken time to focus on our wellness, well-being. We are taking a pause from all the things that we have to complete. And please let us know from where you're joining us today in the chat. Feel free to write that down. I know we have many people from the States, from our country, and also from around the world, and we'd like to know from you, hear from you. In a moment after my keynote, I will share the name of the speakers. They are wonderful. You probably have seen it on the announcement. In the meantime, please keep in mind that you can use the chat and you can type questions on the Q&A section and the bottom bar of the webinar. We will take the questions later, and hopefully we can get to all of them. Now I would like to share my screen. Well, hello everyone again. I'm delighted, really delighted to see you all at this event around important themes for the LIS community. We, LIS professionals, students, and educators are experiencing unique challenges, like Dr. Chow mentioned, especially during these uncertain times. But let's take a mindful moment today, and for the next couple of hours, let's pause. And to get us started, let's do a breathing exercise. And there are different techniques, and we are going to hear about them in a few more moments. But we're going to do, I would like to invite you to do a 5-5-5 breathing technique. I'll guide you through that. We're going to do it only one time, but you can do this several times. You can do this at the grocery store. If you are in the stacks of the library, this is very kind of easy, and it's very good to regulate your heart rate and blood pressure, promote a sense of calm and relaxation. And if you repeat this breathing cycle for a number of minutes, it can also help improve your focus and even enhance your sleep. So these things are powerful. All right, let's put our feet firmly planted on the floor and align your back to the back of your chair. You can soften your shoulders or soften your gaze. Roll back your shoulders nicely. And we're going to inhale, hold breath, and exhale. So let's do it together. Inhale quietly through the nose for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhale through your mouth with a whooshing sound. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can actually lift your arms above your head, wiggle your fingers, and lower your arms to your lap. And now we are ready to conquer the world, because mental health is just as important as physical health. Wellness isn't just about working hard, it's about working smart with balance. Years ago, I had 2 colleagues who retired after 45 and 50 plus years of work. They both passed away within 2 weeks. It's an extreme example, but it highlights the point. I also know other 2 workers who had long-standing documented issues with their bosses and colleagues. One had a stroke and died shortly at the office, and the other was picked up by an ambulance at work and committed to a psychiatric hospital, where she unfortunately passed away as well. Both worked in the same office. There must have been a confluence of factors, but I do believe that before our bodies stop, we have to set boundaries, follow healthy routines, exercise, rest, and pay attention to our health. The saying, "I will sleep when I'm dead," could be true. That said, let's look into a more positive scenario. Today is here, we are present, and the world is ours. The role of compassion in LIS. Compassionate LIS work isn't just about caring for others, it's about caring for ourselves too. It's about fostering an environment where empathy guides every interaction, but also recognizing the importance of self-compassion in high-pressure situations. It's creating physical spaces that promote health and wellness, and building a supportive community that help us to combat isolation. Most importantly, it's about setting boundaries, taking time for self-care, and managing our workload in a way that sustains our well-being long term. Therefore, it's okay to reflect and take action with self-compassion. We are still strong. We are leaders, peers. We are still in command if we are compassionate to ourselves. And this should be a trend, right? Let's dive in. Compassionate mental health support, combating stress and burnout. Stress and burnout are increasingly common among LIS professionals and students, driven by the unique pressures of academia, the evolving demands of library work, and broader societal challenges. In academia, LIS professionals often juggle multiple roles, right? We are maybe aware of this, from teaching and research to administration and service, with constant pressure to publish, secure funding, and contribute to academic advancement. The heavy workload, tight deadlines, and demand of grading, managing library collections, and supporting both students and faculty can quickly lead to feelings of overwhelm. Moreover, the perpetual expectation for professional and personal growth, staying current with new technologies, research trends, and educational methodologies adds further strain, contributing to exhaustion and burnout. The nature of library work itself adds another layer of complexity. As libraries integrate new technologies, such as digital archives, AI tools, and data management systems, professionals are under constant pressure to adapt. And this rapid technological evolution can create feelings of inadequacy if there is little time or support for learning new systems. Shifting roles within libraries from traditional cataloging to data curation, digital preservation, and even research consulting require diverse skill sets that add to the workload. And compounding these challenges are resource constraints, right? Many libraries face budget cuts, and staff shortages, meaning that professionals are asked to do more with fewer resources. That's not cool. But then we also add societal pressures that also weigh heavily on the profession, with libraries expected to address economic issues, social justice, and inclusivity, while still meeting the growing demands for access to information and technology. So these pressures require strong focus on self-compassion and wellness strategies to navigate the complex, high-stress environment of LIS work. The pressures are compounded in LIS work as they require balancing, as I mentioned earlier, administrative, emotional, and intellectual demands of the field. Approaching mental health challenges with compassion is crucial, both for ourselves and for our colleagues, as it creates a supportive environment where we can thrive despite the pressures we face. LIS professionals often navigate a unique set of stressors, such as staying updated with rapidly changing technologies, meeting the demanding expectations of academia, and adapting to new roles with their organizations, as we can see on the screen. For example, a librarian may feel overwhelmed balancing the need to integrate new digital tools into their work while also managing research, teaching, and community outreach. Recognizing these pressures and offering compassionate support can make all the difference in sustaining mental well-being. Some practical solutions. for promoting compassionate self-care and mental health in LIS professionals include integrating mindfulness practices, such as meditation and stress-reducing techniques, into daily routines to build resilience and maintain emotional balance. Establishing peer support networks and providing easy access to counseling services is equally essential, as it fosters a compassionate environment where individuals feel safe sharing their challenges and seeking help. To get there, we need to do some work. People need to feel safe, comfortable, and we're going to hear more of that during these hours. Additionally, offering workshops on time management and setting health boundaries can equip professionals with the tools they need to manage their workloads effectively and prevent burnout, ensuring they can sustain both their work performance and personal well-being. I wanted to share information about an app that many of us have heard. But it can help with mindfulness and resilience. It's Headspace. It has a free plan, and it can offer guided meditations, mindfulness practices, stress reduction. Now, there's very important that you look into the privacy settings, that you look into, if you have ethics concerns, you feel comfortable. So do your own research as well. There is another app for peer support and counseling. It's called 7 Cups. This one connects users with trained listeners and mental health professionals for confidential support. And, creating a compassionate space for individuals to share challenges and receive emotional support. Again, make sure that you are comfortable and feel safe with these environments. The next aspect I wanted to share is about compassionate physical health strategies, combating the sedentary lifestyle. And sedentary work is a major issue for many in the LIS community, with long hours spent at desk and computers leading to musculoskeletal problem, eye strain, and fatigue, to name a few things. For example, a librarian engaged in hours of cataloging or research may experience discomfort in their back or eyes. And to combat this, there are simple strategies like standing or stretch regularly, using ergonomic furniture, and practicing the 20-20-20 rule for eye health. That can help to reduce the physical toll of sedentary work and improve overall well-being. And I will explain the 20-20-20 rule in a moment. Compassionate approaches to physical wellness include encouraging self-compassionate practices involving being mindful of our physical health, recognizing signs of strain, and integrating movement into our daily routines. Could be stretching, walking, adjusting our workspaces. It can also be hobby-based movements like gardening, dancing, cycling. There are different options out there. And this will help us to proactively address discomfort and prevent injury. This is a very short talk today. It's almost only talking about the highlights, but there are so much more information about each one of these areas. Practical solutions, for promoting physical well-being in the LIS community include creating ergonomic workspaces and integrating movement, as I mentioned, into daily routines. For example, setting up an ergonomic workstation with an adjustable chair, proper monitor height, and a keyboard that supports good posture that can prevent strain and discomfort. I know we have to fill out many forms to probably be, okay to receive one of these equipments, but let's put an alert an alert in our calendars, and let's get to that because it's very important. Also, we can encourage active work habits like taking walking meetings, doing brief stretching exercises, using standing desks if that's something you feel comfortable with, and that can help break long periods of sitting and improve circulation. In addition, promoting eye health is crucial for those working long hours on computers. You might have heard this, right? The 20-20-20 rule is an easy and yet effective strategy. Every 20 minutes, take a 20-second break and look at something 20 feet away. And you may need an alert on your phone or in an app the first maybe day or two, but then this can become a habit. We do know that habits are formed after 21 days, but our bodies can get used to some rhythms, right, in terms of the time sequence. And these simple adjustments show compassion for one's physical health, helping to reduce the risk of strain and burnout while boosting overall productivity and comfort. And these are some examples. There is so much more. Now, the next area I want to touch is about compassionate work-life balance, managing multiple roles. And we are all balancing many roles. We are constantly, it's a constant challenge for LIS professionals and students who are often juggling teaching, research, service, coursework, and personal commitments. For example, a librarian who teaches information literacy classes while also conducting research and managing library services might find it difficult to carve out time for self-care or relaxation. The pressure to meet deadlines, fulfill teaching responsibilities, and contribute to service can quickly lead to exhaustion and stress, and this ongoing juggling can result in burnout. It can do that if self-care practices are not prioritized, making it essential to set boundaries and recognize when to step back. Compassionate time management and understanding personal limits can help maintain balance and prevent the overwhelming feelings of being spread too thin. Now, let's say this together. I give myself permission to rest without feeling guilty. I give myself permission to rest without feeling guilty. This is true, and let's believe it. How can we then practice compassionate time management? I'd like to offer a couple of suggestions. Encouraging a shift towards work-life integration rather than a strict separation between the two allows for more flexibility and better accommodation of personal needs. For example, a library professional might need to adjust their work hours to accommodate a family commitment, allowing them to handle both responsibilities without guilt. Integrating work with personal life could mean scheduling focused work periods while also leaving room for personal downtime or taking breaks as needed throughout the day. It's equally important to set compassionate boundaries by knowing when to say no or delegate tasks. For instance, if a librarian is overwhelmed with a project, they might ask for support from a colleague or turn down additional assignments when necessary. An important thing is that we don't leave the bosses without any other option, or our colleagues, right? We miss the teamwork. There's always important for us to provide alternatives. Perhaps we can do this tomorrow. Let me talk to my colleague. Maybe they can cover for me a moment, things like that. We can, yes, it's important if we have to say no, but what are the options, right? That's also important. Recognizing our limits and asking for help ensures that we avoid burnout, we stay productive, and maintain well-being. But first, it's crucial to recognize that setting boundaries is not a sign of weakness, but a form of self-preservation. In academia, and I'm going to pause here, right? So bear with me, but in academia, there seems to be a culture of overwork and constantly pushing ourselves beyond limits. And this can lead to burnout and diminish the quality of our work. By prioritizing tasks that align with your goals and well-being, you're actually protecting your capacity for long-term success. And there are different types of boundaries: time, task and workload, emotional and mental boundaries, technology and communication, personal and balanced habits. And I will leave this here for you to come back. But I want to mention that, for example, if we are asked to take on a new committee role or write an additional paper when we already have a full plate, you could respond by saying something like, I appreciate the opportunity, but I am currently focused on X project or responsibility and want to ensure that I give my full attention as it deserves it. Can we do this? So we need to reflect and, feel that we are safe, that we feel comfortable with the environment. And I want to send my light to all of you, because there are times that I've heard that people don't feel comfortable or safe saying that. But it's very important to remember that ultimately communicating our boundaries with transparency and showing that we are focusing on high priority tasks will reflect on our dedication to both our personal and well-being and also our professional growth. And so it might be tough at the beginning, but I think it can be done. I wanted us to reflect on that. Boundaries are strength. Now, other practical solutions. For instance, flexible work and study hours are essential for promoting well-being and productivity. And by allowing LIS professionals and students to adapt schedules to personal responsibilities, institutions are creating or can create a more sustainable work environment. Incorporating self-compassionate time management tools like planners or apps helps individuals set realistic goals, focusing on prioritization rather than perfectionism. Clearer and more compassionate workload expectations are key in preventing burnout. By the way, burnout is not a health condition. The World Health Organization classifies that as a work phenomenon. Yes, I know we feel it and we feel like it should be, but for the, our work and health purposes is like that. Fatigue is a health condition and it can really affect many organs in our bodies. And so that's another class, but I wanted to put that out there. For instance, a clearer and more compassionate workload expectations, as I mentioned, are key in preventing burnout. For example, offering options for flexible office hours or extended deadlines for assignments that can be helpful to balance professional responsibilities with personal needs, ultimately supporting both academic success and personal wellness. Trello, and no one is paying me for anything here, but Trello is an app that includes a free plan, and it can be helpful for time management, flexible scheduling, and they have different steps. Again, just study it, make sure that you're comfortable and feel safe using the different apps. The last point I wanted to share is about compassionate social support, reducing isolation and fostering connection. Social isolation is a growing concern, especially for LIS professionals and students who often work remotely or in solitary roles. According to the 2021 U.S. Surgeon General's report, and this is the only and the most recent one, on the loneliness epidemic, nearly half of the adults in the U.S. report experiencing loneliness with remote work environments, intensifying feelings of isolation. I wrote a chapter book on loneliness and LIS, and so this is real. In the LIS, isolation can affect mental and emotional well-being, leading to burnout, stress, and a sense of disconnection. The report I mentioned highlights the importance of social connection for mental health, urging organizations to foster environments where individuals can build relationships, share experiences, and support one another. For example, creating virtual communities, regular check-ins, or mentorship programs that can mitigate the negative impact of isolation and help professionals feel more connected and supported in their roles. Fostering a sense of community in the LIS field is essential for combating isolation and promoting well-being. Yes, one way to do this is by designating mindful rooms. Isn't that beautiful? Or collaborative spaces, either physically or virtually, where librarians and LIS academics can gather, share ideas, and support one another. And I hope that this is true for many of you out there, that you feel safe and comfortable in those environments. And one example of that could be a mindful room in a library or academic setting might include comfortable seating, plants, natural light, and designated quiet zones for reflection or informal discussions. I know of one of these rooms in Framingham University, Massachusetts. A beautiful setting that can also be reserved using the library catalog for the intranet for the library workers. So magical, right? These type of environments can encourage individuals to recharge, brainstorm together, or simply connect. And virtual spaces, for instance, like weekly online coffee chats or discussion forums, can serve as compassionate spaces where professionals feel heard and supported. And these spaces, whether they are physical or virtual, create opportunities for engagement. They should also reduce feelings of isolation and foster a stronger, more connected community in the LIS fields. Some practical solutions related to this area are building compassionate networks. And that is key. For instance, formal mentorship programs are one effective way to create these networks, offering students and early career professionals guidance, emotional support, and a space to share experiences. For example, a mentorship program where experienced librarians mentor new professionals. Can that be done? You feel safe, comfortable, because that can alleviate stress and provide crucial insights into navigating the demands of the field. There are also online communities and forums where they're also valuable resources. They can provide virtual spaces for LIS professionals to connect, share advice, or discuss common challenges. For instance, LinkedIn groups or specialized forums can facilitate ongoing conversations and foster a sense of solidarity. Additionally, professional development events, this could be one of them, but also we can have team building activities or collaborative workshops that can break down professional silos and foster camaraderie. These events can be in person or virtual, But the goal is the same, right? Creating opportunities for LIS professionals to bond and build a supportive network that extends beyond work-related tasks. But we have to be careful, right? If people feel comfortable, safe, if we have the systems in place to really support this. One effective strategy is to begin team building workshops. For instance, when you don't know exactly how are the personalities, right? Well, we could build workshops that are focused on self-awareness and understanding. You could start with activities like a personality assessment. And here is a page of one of the most famous and popular ones, the Myers-Briggs test. And this could help staff to better understand their individual working styles and strengths that they bring to the team. And so this could help to shift the focus away from personal conflicts and towards appreciating diverse perspectives, right? This could be a strategy. Another useful approach is to facilitate guided conversations where staff members can express their challenges in a safe, structured environment. And this could be with the help of a trained facilitator. These sessions can help uncover misunderstandings and build empathy if done right. Additionally, making sure that team building activities are centered around shared objectives, such as achieving a common project goal or supporting a larger organizational mission, and that can shift the focus from interpersonal tensions to collective success. Check-ins or debriefing sessions are also important. And for instance, sessions after workshops or team building exercises can provide an opportunity to address any unresolved issues and ensure that everyone feels heard. Lastly, I want to mention that this can reinforce the idea that the goal is not to force personal friendships, but to create a functional, respectful, and supporting working environment. And so it's a delicate line. And I hope that these really very general points are helpful. I teach classes on each one of these points. You all know Slack, and you may have other tools. And if you have them, please write them on the chat. But I thought that to share at least one that could be helpful to build positive and collaborative environments where teams, can communicate fast. And they have even a tool called Donut, which is very interesting, but it's to pair colleagues and encourage informal chats. All these should be done with plenty of research, so is a safe environment. Now, to conclude, I would like to bring us back together as we are navigating challenging times, and to urge the LIS community to embrace a compassionate approach in both our professional and personal lives. And compassion starts within. By taking care of ourselves, we can better support those around us. So let's try to implement strategies discussed today, look more into them, advocate for wellness initiatives in our institutions, and commit to creating a culture of care that fosters both individual well-being and collective strength. Creating a compassionate culture, this is my quote, in the LIS field requires both individual and institutional effort. Wellness isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for long-term success and sustainability. So to close, let's take a brief moment for reflection. I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable and take a deep breathe in and slowly exhale. And as you do, release any tension you may be carrying from today. And now think about one small way you can show compassion to yourself today. Whether it's setting a healthy boundary, taking a moment for rest, or simply acknowledging your efforts. And as we are moving forward, let's remember that self-compassion is not just a practice, it's a mindset that strengthens us to be better for others and for ourselves. And when you are ready, take another deep breath and gently open your eyes. And thank you for being here and for being a part of this important conversation. Your engagement today is a very important step toward fostering a more compassionate and supportive LIS community. And I encourage you to continue reflecting on wellness strategies because we are discussing even more of them today. Carry these practices forward, not just through this event, but in your everyday lives and work. Let's keep the conversation going, actively engage in different initiatives that prioritize our well-being so that we can continue to thrive both as individuals and collectively. And thank you once again. I look forward to seeing the positive changes that we can make. All right. This is a great day. Now, I would like to welcome our speakers for the rest of the day, and we are going to take questions after each one of the speakers. Perhaps you have a question or a comment, something. Of course, we started the event with Dr. Anthony Chow. He's the director of the San Jose State University School of Information. While we are in this amazing cloud of wellness and self-compassion, I would like to also mention the names of our guest speakers. Lisa Melendez, Reference and Instructional Services Librarian at Suffolk County Community College, and she is also a yoga instructor. Billey Albina, they are going to let us know, therapist and former academic librarian. Jamia Williams, Assistant Librarian, expert in health subjects and research at the University of Utah. And we are so lucky to have two LIS students with us today. Natali Carmona Guzman, iSchool MLIS student, and iSchool virtual reality student lead, and Kat Tang. She's also an MLIS student at San Jose State University. Both of them are an ALA student chapter chair, and she is also an iSchool student group founding officer of the AANHPI, which is related to the American Asians and populations. And she's going to let us know more about that in a moment. Now, I would like to welcome Lisa Melendez.
Okay. Thank you, Loida. And I'd first like to just start by thanking Loida and everybody else that was involved in bringing us all together to discuss, how do we take care of ourselves, compassion for ourselves, particularly during such uncertain times. As Loida mentioned, I am a librarian. Reference instruction is a big part of who I am. I've been a librarian at a community college for over 30 years. And I also continue to study and teach yoga for, I'd say, about 18 or 20 years or so. So the idea of bringing compassion into our work is fundamental to me. When I think about my yoga studies and I think about compassion, I think about this idea of ahimsa that maybe some of you are aware of, this idea of non-harming. So what can we do in our everyday work and our interactions with colleagues, with students, with the general public, depending on where we're working, to take care of ourselves and allow us to do our work in a productive way. And for myself, one of the things that I find is looking for creative ways to create a space of belonging for myself and all of the others I mentioned. So as somebody who does a lot of teaching, a little bit of what I'm going to talk about, or really maybe a lot of what I'm going to talk about and share with you, is some of the techniques that I incorporate on a daily basis to be practical, but because I spend a lot of my time doing that, and to be able to engage in facilitating people's connections with each other, as well as with information and with themselves, I turn to my yoga studies. This primarily came, I'll just give you a little background how I started to become interested in this about, I don't know, a good 10 years ago. I was helping a student locate a book on the shelf that he wanted to incorporate in his works cited. And as we were looking, maybe the book was misplaced. I don't remember the particulars, but I do remember that he said, "It's no big deal. I just want to find something to shove into my paper." And that gave me pause. I realized what he had already written the paper, but he was trying to find material just to kind of put in there and cite. So I had to take a step back and realize part of that is this fast-paced, shifting technology, end product focus of many of our students, and especially in a community college with so many different responsibilities that they have. And, it sort of made me sit and think, well, where's the digestion? Where's the processing, right? And the learning process or the research process. And then I had another interaction with a student around the same time where she was very into the subject she was doing. We gathered all kinds of relevant stuff. She chose what she wanted to use and then immediately jumped onto a computer in our reference area and started typing the paper. What I saw was somebody who found a lot of stuff, but didn't or couldn't take the time to slow down, read through it, digest it, synthesize it. And as an instructional librarian in an academic library, this is a big part of what we do. We want to teach people how to do these things. So I started to think, how can I use my personal training and studies in yoga, my practices, to sort of encourage maybe a slower, a more calm pace for engaging with information. And just like the other lifelong skills, let's say, that we like to teach as research and instructional librarians, our relationship with information, I truly believe, affects who we are and who we become. And I'm really thinking of the students as well there. So I started to do some of my own work, and I found a book by David Levy called Mindful Tech, where he had very practical exercises. You might want to look into it if you're not familiar on, sort of taking your time and engaging with information, mostly geared towards students. There's another book called Becoming a Reflective Librarian and Teacher by Michelle Reel. And then I also stumbled across Smith College in Massachusetts had a summer institute on contemplative learning in higher ed. So I signed up and I joined. And there were librarians, there were journalists, there were architects, there were photographers, there were people from all sorts of disciplines, philosophy, literature, who were all coming together to think about ways we can get our students to engage with information in a more meaningful, let's say, way. Okay. Yeah, I'll type the name of those books in afterwards. And like Loida mentioned, as a teaching librarian, many times we're prepping, we're running to meetings, we're doing a million different things, grading, of course. But one thing I came away with, and I'd like to try that with everybody here if you're willing, is a very simple exercise called Take 5 that philosophy and religious studies professor shared with us while we were having breakfast or lunch. So without too much instruction, I'd like you to just sit comfortably, maybe close your eyes, and take just several breaths, maybe 5 or so, right? Everybody's breath is going to be a little different, so we'll just have a general sense of what that feels like. Okay, I'm going to join you in doing that. 5 breaths, nothing forced, nothing rushed. Just see where you are. One more rounded breath, just like you're doing. If you had your eyes closed, you can open them. We're going to continue with this exercise just for a little bit. The next round of 5 or so breaths that I'd like you to do, I'd like you to try to incorporate a little more intention. And, sit up nice and straight if that's comfortable for you, feet on the ground. And I'd ask that you put your palms on your lower abdomen, right? So somewhere below your belly button, if that's feasible. And freely inhale, just as you were doing, but very intentionally try to extend your exhale by also contracting in your belly. Again, gentle, not forced, but a nice free inhale, and then slowly exhaling and contracting in your belly at the same time. We'll do that for a few more breaths. Make sure you're fully exhaling, taking your time. Maybe one more rounded breath in the same way, not rushing, staying with the exhale as you can. So just take a moment, open your eyes, shift around if that feels okay to you. This exercise, with this philosopher introduced me to, is simply called Take 5. That's what he calls it. And what he does is he incorporates that into the beginning of every class he teaches. So when I was thinking about what Loida said, we're rushing, we are grading, we've last minute prep for course. This is one simple way, if you're comfortable with it, of practicing something like this with your students even, if you have that opportunity for teaching. If not, you can certainly do it on your own. But as somebody who spends a good amount of time teaching, it's nice to have that space to do that. It also, I believe, creates a sense of belonging and a relationship between myself and my students, right? It's no judgment. I offer students the possibility, if they're not comfortable doing this, to stay outside of the room or to come in and just sit quietly. The lights are off while we do this. Eyes are open or closed. I've had a veteran in the class who was not comfortable closing his eyes, perfectly fine. And what I started to notice, and also what I read in the feedback that they sort of give over the semester at the end, is that the restlessness, the shiftiness, the uncomfortableness with just being still for 5 breaths starts to also shift. So as Loida said, and I'm sure others are aware, a simple but profound regular practice can have very potent results, let's say. Okay. One of the students in the class the repercussions were she stopped checking her email before she got to work. And she felt that transition and that time she gave to herself, which we can certainly do too, was extremely helpful in cultivating her own well-being. So one thing I'd like to mention also about, you may have noticed this, the 2 take 5s, let's say. The first time I did this, let's say yesterday, just as an exercise, took me about 40 seconds, not long at all to do something like this. But when I did it with intention and intentionally broke down the exhale, extended it, in other words, it more than doubled to over a minute, right? So the effect of that, according to yoga studies, would be more of what we would call a langanas effect, which is more calming. And in the tradition I studied, where the breath goes, the mind will follow, right? So whatever exercises we can do with our breath, with pranayama, over time and regularly will also help to create a more focused and calm mind. Okay, so let me just share some other ideas of what I've done in my yoga, not bringing yoga into the classroom. We've done reflective writing. I've also taken my students on a silent walk, which for me is one of the most calming things to do. Again, tying or integrating, as Loida mentioned, our personal and professional lives together in itself, I think, can be very useful. So walking around campus, having students follow me without technology, without a cell phone, unless it's critically important, but being open to following, being open to whatever they discover, the uncertainty. I don't even know which path I'm going to take. If I see something, I go in that direction. I have them follow me. And what we're doing is gathering information, because many students, even ourselves, may just get to where we got to go and go back, get to where day after day. How about if I walk to my office or my classroom without looking at my phone and maybe taking a different path? This can work wonders, I believe, especially if I do it with intention and a sense of trying to cultivate stability. And again, this comes back to the idea of how do we create stability during uncertain times? Okay, we know that research and life in general is messy, but the more we can slow down, I believe, or release energy, if that's what we're feeling, that's also very important. But we have to start paying attention to what we're feeling first to move forward. And when I lead the students around, I intentionally take them at some point in front of a large staircase. We don't go up it, but we pause to notice what it feels like in our body, what it feels like in our breath. How did we react to that? And then we usually wander through a grove of pine trees and make some comparison. So we're learning about ourselves as, I would say, a primary source in some ways. We also incorporate that into regular writing. Loida, I just lost track of time, or Claire, so I'm going to keep going, but just in case I'm going over, please let me know. Okay? So let's see. What I try to do, again, in terms of being with students, because this is so much of what I do, is even in a one-shot class, and maybe some of you teach a lot in this way, is I distribute a little piece of paper or an index card as a check-in. Again, I'm trying to create connection. And, yoga is all about relationship, connection, etc. 2 more minutes, I see. Thank you. So, I read out anonymously what they've written. How do you feel about being in the library? What do you hope to learn? What does research bring up for you? But I also participate in the process. Again, it's another opportunity for me to feel connected, which for me is a great part of my own self-care, to feel connected to the people that I'm working with, right? Students in particular, and create a good space for them. So I want to see what works for them. I share those anonymous things. I'm very honest about where I'm feeling. And, with this idea of uncertainty, I think just putting ourselves out there can be super helpful because, we're a Hispanic serving institution. And with 40% Hispanic students during the times we're going through, we're seeing a lot of fear, a lot of change. And we have to figure out when we take care of ourselves, how do we create that sense of belonging for them as well? Because we are part of the same community. So, I have my personal practice, but I try to integrate that into the work I'm doing because I spend so much time there that it is also very fulfilling at that level of connection. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I am taking so many notes. It's wonderful. I really appreciate you sharing them. And the one that really struck me is the silent walks.
Mm-hmm.
That could be so magical and so healing as well. So thank you so much. Everything is good. Let me tell you, my friends and everyone who is attending here, the 5 breaths that could last hours, and it could be really an experience. Now, talking about different techniques and different strategies we can use, I would like to welcome Billey Albina. I met Billey some years ago, and I'm so glad we're able to collaborate again. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Loida. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me today. I am Billey Albina. I use she, her pronouns, and I was an academic technical services librarian for over 13 years before going back to school for my master's in social work at the University of Toronto. Today, I will be leading us through a guided meditation, adapted from a meditation by Jon Kabat-Zinn. So I invite you to get comfortable, settle in, and simply listen to the sound of my voice. This meditation is usually done in a sitting position, either on the floor or in a chair. And it begins by feeling the support of your chair or the cushion, paying attention to the actual sensations of contact, finding a position of stability and poise, your upper body balanced over your hips and shoulders in a comfortable but alert posture. Hands on your lap or your knees, arms hanging by their own weight like heavy curtains, stable and relaxed. If you feel comfortable, I invite you to feel into your body. And if that is not comfortable, I invite you to feel the sensation of the air around your body. I invite you to bring your attention to your feet, to your legs, to your hips, your lower body, your upper body, your arms, shoulders, neck, and head. Your whole body sitting. And when you are ready, I invite you to close your eyes and keep them. I invite you to close your eyes or keep them open with a soft gaze. And bringing awareness to the feeling of your body breathing, the actual physical sensations, feeling each breath as it comes in and it goes out. Letting the breath be just as it is, without trying to change or regulate it in any way. Allowing it to flow easily and naturally, with its own rhythm and pace. Knowing that you are breathing perfectly well right now. Nothing for you to do. Just breathe. Allowing the body to be still and sitting with a sense of dignity, a sense of resolve, a sense of being complete, whole in this very moment, with your posture reflecting this sense of wholeness. As you sit here, I invite you to let an image form in your mind's eye of the most magnificent or beautiful mountain that you know or you have seen or can imagine, letting it gradually come into focus. And even if it doesn't come as a visual image, allowing the sense of this mountain and the feeling of its overall shape, its lofty peak or peaks, high in the sky, the large base rooted in bedrock of the earth's crust, its steep and gently sloping sides, noticing how massive it is, how solid, how unmoving, how beautiful, whether from afar or up close. Perhaps your mountain has snow blanketed at its tops and trees reaching down to the base, or rugged granite sides. There may be streams and waterfalls cascading down the slopes. There may be one peak or a series of peaks, or a meadow with high lakes. Observing it, noting its qualities, and when you feel ready, seeing if you can bring the mountain into your own body, sitting here so that your body and the mountain in your mind's eye become one, so that you sit here, you share in the same massiveness and the stillness and majesty of the mountain. You become the mountain. Grounded in the sitting posture, your head becomes the lofty peak, supported by the rest of the body and affording a panoramic view. Your shoulders and arms are the sides of the mountain, your buttocks and legs the solid base. Rooted in your cushion or your chair, experiencing in your body a sense of uplift from deep within your pelvis and spine. With each breath as you continue sitting, become a little more a breathing mountain, alive and vital, yet unwavering in your inner stillness, completely what you are, beyond words and thought, a centered, grounded, unmoving presence. As you sit here, becoming aware of the fact that as the sun travels across the sky, the light and shadows and colors are changing virtually moment by moment in the mountain stillness, and the surface teems with life and activity, streams, melting snow, waterfalls, plants and wildlife. As the mountain sits, seeing and feeling how night follows day and day follows night, the bright warming sun followed by a cool night sky studded with stars and the gradually dawning of a new day. And through it all, the mountain just sits, experiencing change in each moment, constantly changing, yet always just being itself. It remains still as the seasons flow into one another and as the weather changes moment by moment and day by day. Calmness abiding, all change. In summer, there is no snow on the mountain, except perhaps for the very peaks or in the crags shielded from direct sunlight. In the fall, the mountain may wear a coat of brilliant fire colors. In winter, a blanket of snow and ice. In any season, it may find itself at times enshrouded in clouds or fog or pelted by freezing rain. People may come to see the mountain and comment on how beautiful it is, or how it's not a good day to see the mountain, that it's too cloudy or rainy or foggy or dark. None of this matters to the mountain, which remains at all times its essential self. Clouds may come and clouds may go. Tourists may like it or not. The mountain's magnificence and beauty are not changed one bit by whether the people see it or not. Seen or unseen, in sun or clouds broiling or frigid day or night, the mountain just sits, being itself. At times visited by violent storms, buffeted by snow and rain and winds of unthinkable magnitude. And through it all, the mountain sits. Spring comes, trees leaf out, flowers bloom, and in the high meadows and slopes, birds sing in trees once again. Streams overflow with the waters of melting snow, and through it all, the mountain sits. Now I invite you to bring to mind a stressful or unpleasant situation at work, or at the library, or at school. Perhaps a demanding patron or coworker, classmate or professor. Perhaps you have a looming deadline, an unpaid invoice, an upcoming stressful meeting or presentation. Feel into the sensation of your body as you bring to mind this stressful or unpleasant situation. Notice how you feel as you recall this stressful or unpleasant situation. Now let's return to the mountain. That beautiful mountain in your mind's eye. See its lofty peak or peaks. Notice the wind. Smell the fresh air. Feel the solidity of its base, the grounding quality of your mountain. And now let's return to that stressful situation. Notice how you feel. Feel the sensations in your body. And let's return to the mountain. Through it all, the mountain continues to sit, unmoved by the weather, by what happens on its surface, by the world of appearances remaining its essential self through the seasons, the ever-changing weather, the activity ebbing and flowing on its surface. In the same way, as we sit in meditation and in daily life, we can learn to experience the mountain. We can embody the same central, unwavering stillness and groundedness in the face of everything that changes in our lives, over seconds, over hours, over years. In our lives and in our meditation practice, we constantly experience the changing nature of mind and body and of the outer world. We have our own period of light and darkness, activity and inactivity, our moments of color and our moments of drabness. It's true that we experience storms of varying intensity and violence in the outer world and in our inner minds and bodies. Buffeted by high winds, by cold and rain, we endure periods of darkness and pain, as well as moments of joy and uplift. Even our appearance changes constantly, experiencing the weather of its own. By becoming the mountain in our meditation practice, we can link up with its strength and stability and adopt them for our own. We can use its energies to support our energy, to encounter each moment with mindfulness and equanimity and clarity. It may help us to see that our thoughts and feelings, our preoccupations, our emotional storms and crises, even the things that happen to us are very much like the weather on the mountain. We tend to take it all personally, but its strongest characteristic is impersonal. The weather of our own lives is not to be ignored or denied. It is to be encountered, honored, felt, known for what it is, and held in awareness. And in holding it in this way, we come to know a deeper silence and stillness and wisdom. Mountains have this to teach us, and much more, if we let it in. So if you resonate in some way with the strength and stability of the mountain in your sitting, it may be helpful to use it from time to time in your meditation practice and in daily life to remind you of what it means to sit mindfully with resolve and with wakefulness in true stillness. So in the time that remains, continuing to sustain the mountain meditation on your own, in silence, moment by moment, I encourage you to sit until you hear the sound of my voice. You are the mountain. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Billey. We're still in the mountain.
And for those of you who are interested in the work of Jon Kabat-Zinn, I highly recommend his book, Full Catastrophe Living, and here is a link to the WorldCat site where you can find it at your local library. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I look forward to collaborating with Billey again. Beautiful. Now, I would like to welcome Jamia Williams, Assistant Librarian and expert in health subjects and research. Welcome, Jamia.
Hello, thank you so much, Loida. Hello, everyone. Today, I will be talking about library and information science peer support, wellness, and action. I hope our time together today inspires and motivates you to embrace peer support as a powerful step toward putting wellness into action in your professional and personal life. This is the agenda of my talk. First, I would like to start off by defining what peer support is, why this matters, wellness in action, collective care, the challenges and the opportunities around peer support, and a call to action for you to start thinking about this more critically. So let's define peer support, which I think is a foundation for creating community. Peer support in LIS is a collaborative, reciprocal relationship where individuals, where individuals shared experiences provide emotional, social, or practical assistance to one another. It shows up in various forms, from formal to informal mentoring, to affinity groups, to simple group chats, where you are fostering a sense of community and shared understanding. I want you to keep in mind that this can be within your library, within your actual institution that you work in, if you work like in an academic school or a special library. So go thinking outside of your library. If it's not feasible within your library to think, okay, at the institution at large, is there opportunity for this type of thing? And if those spaces don't seem like great places to create peer support, consider building outside of your institution. I'm an advocate for doing all of these things. However, I understand some institutions are toxic and you might not be able to create this type of peer support there. So do your best to promote collaboration where you feel safe and where you feel like it makes sense for you. So why does this matter? It matters because it addresses the silent strain that many library workers feel. Library and information science professionals often face high stress, burnout, and trauma. Systemic inequities and precarity in academic, public, and special libraries exacerbate these challenges. Katrina Davis Kendrick stated, "We are just now thinking about the people that work in libraries, not just the buildings." And it's so great to be champions of the libraries. We definitely need it even more during this time. But we also want to think about how we can champion each other for those of us that work in the library spaces. So think about how you can champion yourself and also your colleagues. So let's talk about how we can do a better job of that. Self-care wasn't enough. We wanted community care. Mia Birdsong. So wellness in action, beyond the superficial. Wellness extends beyond common self-care practices. It encompasses a holistic approach to our emotional, social, and professional well-being. So what does that look like? So considering emotional wellness, that can mean like restorative circles, that means grief support to be able to process difficult emotions. And sometimes peer support can be that space and sometimes it cannot be. So social wellness, being able to set boundaries to protect your personal peace and energy and professional interactions is so important. Lastly, professional wellness. So body doubling, work sessions can foster focus and accountability in a supportive environment. If you don't know what body doubling is, it's basically creating a space where you and someone are able to do a type of task, whether it's different from each other or similar, to get something done. So sometimes we just need someone there to hold us accountable to get that article done or to get that reading done that we need for our class. And this has been an effective tool for me personally, and I know it has been for others. A case for collective care, embracing interdependence, moving away from individualistic solutions into a more collective care emphasizes that we are more interconnected than we realize. And if that's one thing we didn't take away from the global COVID-19 global pandemic, I don't know what was, that we are interconnected no matter what we think, no matter even if it is the American way of being individuals, but we are connected, whether we realize it or not. And so to really stand on that in a way that creates and foster care is so important. So think about community spaces. Sometimes affinity groups help with this, and co-working spaces create environments for mutual support. I know currently affinity groups might not, depending on where you are, might not be accepted, might be illegal, but thinking about how you, if you're not able to do it legally within your institution, to do it outside of your institution so you can still show up for each other and have that shared community space. Peer mentorship. I tell people all the time, if it wasn't for peer mentorship within this profession, I would not be here. I would not be talking to you today. It was my peers that supported me. It was my peers that allowed me to shine and supported me and pushed me along and really was okay with me taking up space, and I was okay with them taking up space. So it's a way to, and also share knowledge, right? Because some of my peers worked in libraries all their lives. So I came into librarianship as my second career. So I didn't have that background knowledge, and they did. So they were able to share with me like the insights of why I was confused about a lot of things in librarianship. The culture of it was like mind blowing to me. Like, why are y'all doing this way? And they're like, well, because of this, and because of that. And then also reading people's scholarships on how did we get here was very helpful too. And then having that room and space to talk about that was so important. Lastly, culturally relevant models. So tailoring support to meet the unique needs of diverse communities. So it's so important for us to have the Black, Indigenous, and people of color spaces. It's important to have LGBTQIA plus spaces and so many other diverse communities within our profession to have those spaces where we feel seen and where we feel heard, and we don't have to explain who we are. We know who we are, and people understand that, and they get that in this type of model. So real world examples, collective strength in numbers. So we have done LIS mutual aid projects. So that's where you directly support each other needs. So sometimes when people have to move, they don't have the funds to do that move, or they don't have a place to stay or things like that. And we can corral around people to support them in their time of need. So this is what is helpful to us in the profession. And we have done that time and time again, showing up for each other in these beautiful ways. So continuing that and keeping that in mind is important. Also, these Black, Indigenous, people of color peer groups, and that helps us again create connection and share experiences because we get it. We don't have to explain, racism to each other. We don't have to explain, sexism and all the other isms to each other. We get it. We understand. And then communities of practice. So these can be online and these can be local to your area where you're creating dialogue around things and sharing resources so you can show up for each other. It's so important to not hoard onto the information, but to share it because this is something that worked for you. It might work for someone else. So how are you able to create that way to share that information is so important. As information professionals, we should be open to sharing information and not hoarding that. So I put an example here where as a past diversity resident, creating a cohort and establishing a monthly check-in and creating a shared resource folder is an example of this. And so this can help with navigating and surviving work environments. And it showcases the power of sustained peer support. So even after you leave your residency program, you still have this community of people that get it. So I definitely want to briefly talk about some challenges that may arise. It's not going to always be perfect when you are creating a support network. So just understand that this is emotional labor. And sometimes you might not be in the best place to support others because you have your own thing going on, and making sure you realize that and understand that. And if you have to take a step back, communicate that and let them know, like, I have a lot going on, or, whatever that is. So people can understand that and just won't be concerned. Also, institutional co-opting can happen where institutions don't want to realize the underlying systemic issues and they want to co-opt wellness as a way to just sweep things under the rug. But we understand, or should understand, that systemic issues are there and that wellness can help, but not in a way where you are trying to silence people, where you're not allowing people to have the space to be their best. And navigating hierarchy. So understanding even in peer support groups, there is power dynamics, there can be power dynamics, and privilege does show up. So sometimes coming in a space, you might have privileges in different ways that your peers might not have, and being aware of that is very helpful. So what works, and I just want to touch on this briefly because my time is wrapping up. So just understanding reciprocity and shared power. So understanding that when we do this, we're trying to share power with each other. We're not trying to compete with each other. And trauma-informed communication is so important. So understanding that we all come with our different traumas, current traumas, and how can we speak to each other in a trauma-informed way. Normalizing rest, boundaries, and repair. Understanding that it is okay to rest and there's different forms of rest. What does that look like for you? And boundary setting. There's so many resources out there on how to set boundaries in a realistic way. And repair. Conflict does happen. And so how can you navigate that, and how can you not avoid it, but work through it together? And then confidentiality and trust building. So using those cues from Brave Space and Black feminist principles, and understanding that you have to, as one of the Brave Space tenets is lessons learned, go, but the stories stay. So those stories stay. Those stories that you share in your group stay, but those lessons go out of that space. So keeping that in mind. So this is my call to action. So it starts in small ways. So if you can create a space, start a peer group, even if it's just one other person. You don't have to think do it big. Just one person that understands and gets it is so important. Again, prioritize joy and rest is definitely important during this time. Ask your peers, what do you need? And open the door for support. I know oftentimes you as helpers, because we are in this profession, we like to help others, but we're not helping ourselves. So being open to and being helped and supported is a beautiful thing. And normalize check-ins, like really being honest with when someone asks you how you are, but only if it's safe to do so, because sometimes people are saying how are you as a greeting and not really care about like how you really are. But if you know it's a place where you can really open up about how you are, go for it. Share, be open. Like, I'm just here today. I don't know how to be, and I need to take space to figure out how I am. So be honest about that. So I'll end with this quote. Massive change is happening, and it will be inevitably increasingly hard and painful. And many of us will get lost along the way. The only protection against the worst case scenario is also in community. We need each other. Either way, and always. Mia Birdsong. So these are some resources that it's not an exhaustive list, but some things to consider, some books and authors, some support and toolkits to help you. And these are my references from my presentation. Thank you so much. And I thank you. Oh, I got hearts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Jamia. You mentioned so many helpful things, and I'm grateful for your time and all your teachings. But there is something that I always mention, and it's so important, right? Start with one thing, start small, as you mentioned, because sometimes we get a bit bogged down about, the magnitude of all the strategies we're supposed to follow, but we can start with one thing, right? And that should be very helpful. All right, I would like to invite all our speakers to come on camera, and we're going to have a conversation that perhaps can provide even more information and even many resources to our attendees and those that will tune in to the recording. And besides our speakers that we met already, we also have the students I mentioned earlier, Natali, Carmona, Guzman, and Kat Tang. So welcome. And let's start with a question for everybody so we kind of set in. And so for everyone, in today's fast-paced, information overloaded world, what is one wellness strategy that has proven most effective for you personally, whether for managing stress, maintaining balance, or nurturing emotional resilience? I will start with how I see you on my screen. And actually, the first one on my right is Billey.
I'm sure it's no surprise I'm going to say meditation. I started practicing meditation over 10 years ago when I was a young librarian. And over the years, just maybe starting a couple minutes once a week, then building up to a couple times a week, and then every day just a couple minutes, and then building up to almost like 20 minutes a day. But it starts slow. But once you start a practice, you really begin to feel the impact in your life. And I noticed when I was on the reference desk, being able to be more present, having more equanimity when patrons would maybe have, they'd be grumpy or anything like that. And I was able, like, through that daily practice, I could feel that affect my daily work. So yeah, meditation goes really far.
Thank you. Kat.
All right. First of all, thank you to everyone for inviting me here, and everyone who spoke already. You shared such amazing information. For me, one wellness strategy that has been really effective for me is keeping in mind the circle of control. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of that, but basically it's about thinking about what you can control and what you can't. So there are some things that we can control and some things that we can't. So I can control how I feel. I can control how I react to things. I can control how I choose to spend my time. But what I can't control is how other people react or what is happening in the world around me, or, political events, environmental events, and things like that. And I think being able to keep that in mind and recognize where my control lies, was a really big factor for me in protecting my wellness. So, like, to give a short example, like over 10 years ago, back when I was in high school, I've always been really interested in like activism and like social issues. So, all of those things were important to me. And I was very concerned about food waste, but I had this very unrealistic idea that I could combat food waste by like eating other people's food. So basically not letting other people's food go to waste. That would help, But so when my friends would like throw away their food, I'd be like, no, let me eat it. I'll eat it for you. Don't worry. And then it would just hurt me because, like I would already be full, but I'd be eating someone else's food. So part of my circle of control was realizing later on that that was unrealistic. Like one person eating someone else's food isn't going to solve the systemic issue of food waste. It's good that I had that kind of concern, but that wasn't an effective way to go about it. So that's really helped me in recognizing like what things can I control and what things can I not control.
Thank you. Natali.
Hi, everybody. Thank you again for having me. So one effective method that I found, especially as someone that goes through like mental health disorders, for me, it's definitely therapy. I know it may not be accessible for everyone, but even finding resources, there's always, like the sliding scale for therapy, or there's group therapy sessions. I think it's really great because a lot of people think it's like, why am I going to speak to someone? But sometimes speaking to someone else does give you a new perspective and can really help you think of something that you might have never thought of could work. So I definitely think that therapy is helpful, and just talking to someone.
Thank you so much. Lisa.
Yeah, so I mentioned I have a long-term yoga practice, and like Billey said, I think it builds on itself. So whatever you attempt to do, I would say, start within reason. If it's 5 minutes a day of taking a quiet walk, doesn't have to be grand and an hour long, heavy duty thing. So there's many ways to incorporate lots of different tools, which I do in my practice. But the other thing that I think is, well, it depends where you are, because access to green space can also be a political issue and difficult. But if there is some space that you can go to, 5-minute walk, 10-minute walk, that you can just be quiet, that really resonates with me too. If I have a head full of stuff and I really need to let go of it, redirecting myself by putting myself in a different space, mostly a natural space, because I'm lucky enough to be close to that, really works well for me.
Thank you. Jamia.
I would say what has worked for me the most is actually taking time off. If you're able to do that, take time off and like really be off. So I do not have the Outlook app on my phone. I try my best to shut out of my Gmails, all my like outside email stuff, social media sometimes, and just like take off my time, like take time off to not engage in work stuff, social media stuff, and just really enjoy what I want to do and just be in tune with what's going on with myself. So taking time off has helped me so much.
I have to agree. My strategy that I wanted to share is the one that has really worked best for me, is taking time off in nature. And time off is totally disconnected. My phone sometimes seems like it's part of my hand, but it's just not sharing pictures, not, really off. And so that really works wonders. And again, like Lisa alluded to, you may be able to do those things, right? If you're able to try to explore more of that, right? Nature and the things that you all mentioned. I'm taking notes. There will be a summary later on our blog, and we hope to be able to share the presentations. Really, there were 2 slide presentations, and along with a recording in a few weeks. All right. Let's then look specifically now to what roles does community support play in promoting wellness within the LIS community? And how can we, and you can strengthen these support systems to foster more compassionate and inclusive workplaces? And so I will direct this question to Lisa, to Jamia, and perhaps even Billey. So I'll go back to Lisa.
There we go. So one of the things that I think works well is maybe trying to think of new ways of seeing is somehow how I think about it. For instance, and for everybody, this will be different. I do a lot of liaison work, right? I have certain departments, women's studies, world languages, ESL students, that I work with those programs more closely than math or science, et cetera. Some are more receptive, but what I try to do is get out of the regular liaison work of buying resources and collaborate on programs. So for instance, with the human services students, they recently expressed a need for wellness materials or self-care materials that are not so academic in nature, right? So they were looking for them in the psych section, but it was too academic or not what they wanted. So I started to collaborate with the club and the advisors of the club and the students, and we came up with a new wellness collection in our library that's more visible, more accessible, where they can promote events. So we sort of created this space for belonging and community, really. Doing something similar with first generation students. So at the community college, because I've also worked at a big university in California, I have more ability, I would say, to be part of community. So I work with the Office of Mental Health and Wellness, the Human Services Program, World Languages, where a lot of interaction with ESL students and know your rights, things like that. Because as librarians, I feel like we create space for certain sorts of things. And thinking back to 30 whatever years with a professor, he always said, your job is to facilitate connection between people and information. And that information can come from us as individuals, that's very important, but also from our collaborations and creations together. So I hope that answers.
Absolutely. Yes. Jamia.
I would say two things. Well, the main thing is I feel like it starts from the top down. So if leadership, formal leaders can understand the importance of this type of support, it would be beautiful. And sometimes it doesn't happen depending on where you are. But if it does happen, it creates an environment where accountability happens and making sure that people are taking their time off, people are not being led to burnout and those things. So one of the things that I appreciate with my boss is she understands what's on my plate and she'll let me know like, okay, this is a priority or this is not really a priority. She'll wait for me. So, and then also, give me an out to like, I got this request. What do you think? Should I take it or not? And she'll support like, no, you don't have to, or yes, this is good, looks good for whatever reason. So I think having that is very helpful. And then if you don't have that in your institution, creating that outside. So with my peers, we tell each other like, hey, we got this request to do the speaking engagement. What do y'all think? And then oftentimes you need that person to say no. You have enough on your plate. And, here's some other people in our community that can be, do the keynote or do the writing of this article, whatever. So, thinking about that, we had literal spreadsheets of other people that do similar work to us where we can tap on their shoulders to do that. So think about that. So accountability. Last thing, we try to have a culture of no meetings on Fridays. So if you're able to do that within your library or within your institution, think about that. Like, okay, maybe on Fridays we don't have meetings, or a couple hours during this time we don't have meetings because we want to prioritize our wellness and our well-being. So I feel like those are simple ways, but powerful ways to keep each other accountable and being well.
Thank you, Billey.
Yeah, two things. The last couple libraries that I worked at, I co-coordinated meditation groups. So Loida, I loved your like wellness, mindful spaces. I wish that the libraries that I worked at had those. We would often meet in like, you know, like processing spaces or a closet in one case, a very large closet. But, we just finding a quiet space in the library to meet with people, to sit in meditation and have it as a regular practice is really powerful. And so then, having that peer support, Jamia, you spoke about like peer groups and affinity groups, and those things can really go so far. And I guess the second point that I'll say is, cultivating a culture of celebration. A couple libraries that I've worked at, celebrating birthdays, getting birthday cakes. One library I worked at, we went out for beers and bowling. Like little things like that can really go a long way, and it can really help cultivate a good culture within the library and camaraderie around coworkers. Yeah.
Thank you so much to all of you. I would say that really remind me that there is a practice in corporate. I work with different stakeholders, and they're looking into, in the last years, actually, last maybe 4 or 5 years, creating positions like the chief happiness officer or chief taco officer. I mean, there are so many terms out there, but it's to bring celebration, to bring a little bit of levity into workspaces. If you decide to do something like that, just test the names out with the colleagues so everybody is comfortable. But there are a number of ways out there of bringing this type of sentiments and culture to the offices. I would like now to turn to our students, and I have a question for you. And thank you so much for your contributions. Everybody has a different contribution, and they are so important because I hope they are speaking to the different individuals that have joined today. So how can LIS professionals, particularly students, early career librarians, cultivate resilience and self-care practices early in their careers to avoid burnout and maintain long-term well-being? What is that strategies that you would recommend, Kat?
I think the most important thing I learned early on, and I was very lucky to have like a lot of mentors or like more established librarians or LIS professionals kind of give me this advice, and other people have talked about this, right? But to set hard boundaries for yourself. So I think as a student and an early professional, you feel a lot of pressure to take opportunities and to develop yourself. So you want to volunteer for everything, or it's very hard to say no. You want to do everything because you want to have that experience. You want to meet new people and you want to develop, but you also have to be mindful of how much you have on your plate. Like I work 2 jobs and I do a number of student organization things and I'm doing my classes. So even though I want to do so many things, I have to look at my plate sometimes and think about it and say, okay, I really can't afford to take on more than this. And going back to what Jamia said as well, like being very mindful of that and turning things down if it's not a good fit for you and what you currently have on your plate. And that's also in terms too, I think, of what you're asked to do, like at work. Like sometimes you'll have a patron interaction where it's just not going well. You can always tap another coworker to be like, hey, I need some assistance here. Like, can you step in and help me? or also at work being asked to do things that maybe you don't feel comfortable with. Like I know at my workplace, we don't have a janitor or like we don't have custodial staff. So one of my concerns in the beginning was I don't feel comfortable like cleaning up human waste or something like that. So I was scared that I would be asked to do that. And a couple of our librarians have told me I don't feel comfortable doing that either, so I'll call maintenance. Like you are not expected to do that. So being told like over and over from different people that it's okay to set your boundaries and to say like I don't feel comfortable doing these things, for me that's been really a really big important part of my professional development, learning to set those boundaries with people and recognize what my own limits are.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We don't talk very often about the maybe creepy and really plain scary aspects of our profession sometimes. And they're so important because they really impact our emotional well-being. And so we can't have this wellness and coming together and going to the mountain and doing all these things if we have really concerns that are clouding everything, because they are really concerns. And there are, we need another session for that. But I wanted to pause a moment and acknowledge the reality that many of library workers face. And thank you so much for that. Natali.
I think for me, something that I learned early on is joining organizations as a person of color and Latina. It means a lot to me to join organizations like REFORMA. I was lucky enough to be part of the American Library Association Spectrum Scholar. So it was really good to be able to connect with people that are just like me, because there's not a lot of data about, people of color in our field. And there's not a lot of us. Even when I worked in my undergraduate years as an academic librarian, I'm like a student assistant for the academic library, there wasn't a lot of librarians that look like me. So I wanted to change that. And it's something that I'm very passionate about. It's just more representations, because not a lot of students think that being a librarian is a feasible job. They don't know how to get to be a librarian. They don't know any of that. So being part of these organizations, you get to hear people's stories, you get to hear about what they went through, and also know that you have a community around you that feels the same way and is supportive. And another thing that I learned as a student is communicating with your faculty. So like I said, I have my own mental health journey, and something that when I was going through my lowest moments is just talking to faculty, letting them know, hey, I'm going through this. Is there anything I can do to maybe have either not even an extension, but even different ways to do the assignment that might be more beneficial if you are going through mental health struggles? Just know that faculty, it's not scary to reach out. It's important to communicate and to be open about what's going on with you, because they're not mind readers. If, especially if you're working in a remote environment, they might not know what's going on with you. But if you're open and you talk about it and you're willing to get help and resources, they're more likely to help you.
Thank you so much. And that goes for everyone, right? Communication is so important. It's terrible, right? Sometimes we assume that we should not communicate, but it can be so helpful. I would like us to come back to the group, speakers and students, and let's go around in a kind of a lightning talk, mentioning what will be the one practical recommendation for someone trying to create a healthier or nurturing emotional resilience. And I will go in the same circle, Billey.
Sleep. Get good sleep. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Drink lots of water. Get good sleep.
Sleep is amazing. Natali.
I think just taking time off your phone and social media. Sometimes for me, it's like I get very overwhelmed, like whether it's school emails, work emails, just taking the time off to put your phone away and just breathing, listening to music. I love singing bowls. So if anybody has ever listened to singing bowls, great.
Kat.
Make intentional time to connect with your community. So your loved ones, people around you, your friends, your family. I know so many people who work hard but don't play hard, but that's so important. Like you need to give yourself as much rest and restoration time as hard as you work. And so many people think like, oh, I can't take time off to like you need to like make that time, you know, right? That's a really important part of caring for yourself.
Lisa.
I would say look for moments that you can incorporate pause into your life, whatever that is. Like Natali said with the phone, I suggested to my students and myself, I don't take out my phone when I'm walking from my car to my office, and depending on how I'm feeling, I walk slow and very intentionally. I'm not like running to get in the building on purpose, though. The intention I think is important. And sometimes I'll just, if I have a lot of anxiety or something's happening, I'm going to walk once or twice around the plaza. I'll get inside in, 2 more minutes. So pausing however you can. Mm-hmm.
Jamia.
So I guess I'll wrap up in a bow what everyone said, like creating a care plan. So thinking about like, create a playlist if you like music to make you relax or feel energized. Thinking about, okay, how am I going to incorporate breaks throughout my work day? What vacation plans do I have or time off plans do I have? And thinking about how you can better take care of yourself so you can make that time with your peers and your friends or your family to really have fun and enjoy life. Even in the tough times, we need to enjoy life.
We have to remind ourselves to enjoy life. At times that might not look like a possibility or even relevant, but it's very important. We can start small and it can really be achievable. Thank you so much to everyone today. And we would like to extend, on behalf of Dr. Chow, who had to move to another meeting, extend gratitude to all the speakers and all the attendees. And to mention also that the San Jose State University iSchool is very proud to sponsor these events that are very helpful to our librarians and library workers. I also want to repeat something I said at the beginning. Thank you for your attention, participation, your openness during this session. The speakers, attendees, this engagement is very important. It's a great step towards fostering a more compassionate and supporting LIS communities. It can happen. It's an ongoing endeavor. We can't say we reach it. Oh, wellness or well-being. We have to work at it every day and sometimes a little bit put more time or effort in it. But I encourage everyone to continue reflecting on these strategies that we discussed, and please do carry them forward, not just to the event that is going to conclude soon, but everyday lives in work. And let's keep the conversation going and actively engage in initiatives that prioritize our well-being so that we continue to excel both as individuals and also as professionals. And thank you so much again. I look forward to seeing all the fruits of your work and to meet again. Thank you.